Hey guys! Can I just say I'm really shocked that I'm actually on time for this? Hold on one second, I'm gonna get my phone hooked up. Okay. Oh, I wonder... Okay. Hi! Thank you for showing up. I wanted to start... Oh, gotta turn down my own volume. Okay. I wanted to start with this video with a question that I've been getting a lot, especially since I posted my last What I Eat in a Day video that was about digestion, and we talked about hydration and stuff as well. So, the most common question that I've been getting is, hi everybody! I'm trying to do the sessions at different times so that more people can tune in. So I'm glad I see some people from Europe actually got to tune in this time. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, most common question that I've been getting about the water intake is, do I drink with meals, before meals, after meals? What do I do? So, I highly advise that if you're going to be drinking like a significant amount of water, that you should do that at least 10 to 20 minutes before a meal. That gives your digestive tract a chance to kind of empty out a little bit from the water before you start adding in foods. You do this because if you drink water or you have a lot of water in your tummy and then you eat, that dilutes the digestive gastric juices quite a bit, and then you'll end up getting like you'll start getting indigestion or you know, the burps that come back up your esophagus, which is not good. So highly advised, drink before meals. Don't drink with meals, and then wait, I would say like 2 to 3 hours after a meal to drink a significant amount. If you're just going to be like slowly sipping on a water bottle, then there's really no reason to like restrict that fluid intake, but don't chug a liter of water after you eat. Alright, so the other question is, how much should I be drinking every day? I know there are a lot of different recommendations. You know, Dr. Greger says one thing, McDougall says another, Dr. Popper says something else, I say something completely different. And I speak from my own personal experience a little bit in this, but at least 64 ounces a day, that's like bare minimum. I know Dr. Greger says you can get less. I believe he says that because he says that includes fluid intake from foods. But what I've heard is 64 ounces of fluid on top of what you're getting from food, because the average adult loses about 10 cups of water per day through, you know, sweating and breathing and pooping and peeing and all that kind of stuff. If you're more active... Petunia, are you okay? Sorry, she just fell off the bed. Okay, she's okay. If you're more active, you should be drinking more to account for that sweat loss. And then another question that I got is, I feel like I'm not absorbing the water I drink. Like, I feel like it just goes straight through me. I'm still thirsty. My skin still feels parched. What's going on? I definitely have dealt with this. I believe that it's caused by issues with the adrenal gland, because they control so much of the hormones that keep your fluid intake balanced, right? So if you're having adrenal or other endocrine issues, that can really affect your body's ability to regulate its own fluids. My tips for dealing with that is to sip regularly. In addition to, like, I like to tank up in the morning, and then I sip regularly throughout the day with maybe like 1 or 2 smaller tank ups, you know, throughout the day. What I also do is I add the mineral drops to the water, and then what I've been doing for Levi is adding a lot of electrolytes, because he's outside working all day, sweating all the time. So he gets like electrolyte packets or electrolyte drops in addition to a few mineral drops in his water. The other thing is to make sure that it is actually filtered water, because if it has like a bunch of chlorine or other contaminants in it, like, your body doesn't want to absorb that. It's already, like, it's toxified. It's not useful. The other thing is you can actually add like a couple of grains, tiny little pinch of salt, like tiniest amount. I literally mean like a few grains of salt. You're not adding teaspoons of salt to your water. a couple of grains of salt, shake it up, let it dissolve, and then that can help your body to absorb water more effectively. Otherwise, if it's because of an endocrine issue, the number one thing that helps those heal is rest and good diet and being really consistent. Because if you're swinging back and forth and, one day you're eating really healthy and then one day you're eating complete crap, one day you sleep 15 hours and the next day you only get 2 hours of sleep, that really messes with your endocrine health. Okay, now that we have covered that, we can move on to the live questions. Thank you guys for being patient. Okay. Do I recommend a certain brand of electrolyte power / drops? I'm going to Ecuador and it's recommended to bring some just in case of emergency. Yeah, if you're traveling, it can be really good to have electrolyte drops, especially because, if you get sick and then, you're losing electrolytes from travelers' digestive issues or whatever. Anyway, I like the Concentrace mineral drops. I feel like they have a really nice balance of minerals and electrolytes. I think they are kind of low on the electrolyte spectrum, though. I know that Emergency, they make an electrolyte powder that doesn't have huge amounts of vitamin C in it. So it's just electrolytes, no vitamin C, so you can't overdose on the vitamin C. And then their stuff is pretty good. It's like, yeah, you're getting like, isolated nutrients coming from a foreign source as opposed to food, but in those cases, it's totally fine. So Emergency, I think, is a fair brand. There's not a lot of options here as far as what we have in our health food stores. I know Levi had one, it had like acai berry in it as well, but I can't remember the brand of that, I'm sorry. I would say go to the health food store, or you can research it online and look for something that has decent ingredients without, aspartame or any artificial sweeteners, and look for something that seems pretty clean, no preservatives, no colorings, natural flavors, stuff like that. And that tends to work pretty well. Can I talk a little bit about my experience with the Wellness Forum? How do you like the Nutrition Educator program, and would you recommend it to others? Yeah, no, with PMS you should eat more soy and phytoestrogen-rich foods. Sorry, that one just popped up. The Wellness Forum Institute. That's Dr. Popper's program, and she brings in a lot of other instructors to teach the program. I started out, I was going to do the Nutrition Educator program, which is a 2-year program. I believe you leave with an associate's degree. It's pretty legit, it's good, but then I started the classes, and the classes were going to really take me away from the work that I was doing, so it was limiting my income pretty severely. It was going to be, between part-time and full-time thing. I started taking the classes, it's all online on PowerPoints, and then you're on a conference call talking with the professor and the other people in the class, and I quickly realized that this is not a good way for me to learn. I'm not going to be able to learn well doing this, especially with basic stuff like chemistry and biology, and considering the time commitment and the financial commitment, I decided to drop most of the classes, the basic classes, because I've already taken anatomy and physiology. I already have a pretty good understanding of chemistry. I've taken those classes before. I'm pretty familiar with biology, fairly well self-educated, and I felt that for the payout, for the reward at the end, it wasn't at that time worth my time commitment. If you're in a different situation where you're able to study more full-time, I think it's a great program, and I think you can learn a ton there. It just wasn't totally right for me to do that entire program. What I did do was I stayed on the classes that I felt like I was getting a lot from. So those were mostly the classes that Dr. Popper was teaching, because she is just a wealth of information. You listen to her for 20 minutes, and it's the equivalent of listening to anyone else for 3 hours. She just pours it into you. She's very concise, very knowledgeable, and I loved taking classes with her. I learned so much. I cannot recommend taking classes with her more highly. I'm not in classes right now, but I keep meaning to like get into it. I have so much on my plate right now as far as learning new software and equipment and working on the channel that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to take more classes in the near future, but it's definitely on the list for like 6 months from now or a year from now. I want to get back into that because it's so great to fill your mind. I did do the lifestyle intervention program, which is more concentrated. It kind of goes over the same premise. I think it took like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months to do. And I loved that class. I think it's really valuable. So if you want to do that one, I think they're just about to start another round of it. And that was incredibly valuable. Okay. I would like to hear a tubal ligation update. No side effects? I haven't had any side effects from the tubal ligation. Like no pelvic pain, no ectopic pregnancies. I really don't have any complaints. My hormones have been great since I had it happen. I know some people say that, you know, women end up having horrible hormonal issues. I have not experienced that. My hormones just keep getting better, if nothing else, and taking away the stress of, you know, an unwanted pregnancy is nice. It's nice for the hormones. Okay. Someone asks, can metabolic damage make it hard to lose weight? I can't lose weight no matter what I do. Yes, I have videos specifically about metabolic damage and recommendations for that in my weight loss series, so I highly recommend you go to the weight loss series playlist and have a look at that. I hate the phrase metabolic damage. I think it's really stupid, and I think it has done a lot to invalidate the theory that it stands for, just because like your metabolism is not something that you can drop on the floor and damage. What metabolic damage means is your endocrine organs are out of whack, or your hormones are out of whack in some way, and that is preventing you from being able to lose weight. Like I said a few minutes ago, improving the endocrine system, healing the endocrine system, and allowing your hormones to come back into balance, a lot of it is about rest and consistency. So, as I said in my metabolic damage video, if you're struggling losing weight, I honestly feel like it's better for you to set 2 hours a day aside to nap instead of workout. And if you want more details, like head over to that video because I talk a lot about that and my recommendations. Alright. Does high fruit trigger breakouts? Not in my experience, and not to my knowledge. I'm not aware of anything that would be inside fresh fruits or vegetables that could trigger a breakout, unless you have sensitivities to a ligand that's present in the fruit or vegetable. And I don't want to trip over my own tongue in this one, because I feel like it just fell out of my head. But ligands, they're components in fruits, and fruits, vegetables, all foods have them. You hear about them a lot in beans and stuff, and people call them anti-nutrients. They're not really anti-nutrients. And I believe that they're in animal foods as well. Like, they're everywhere. You can't avoid them. But certain foods have certain ligands, and they can trigger a certain effect in different people's bodies. It's kind of like a food allergy, except you don't get an allergic reaction. You know, it's like you're not getting hives, you're not going into anaphylactic shock, but you can have sensitivities to other foods. So it's like, say you eat bananas, and you're like, gosh, I feel like every time I eat a banana, I break out. There could be a possibility that you're sensitive to one of those components in the banana. That's totally possible. One way to figure that out is through like an elimination diet, where you don't eat bananas for, say, 6 weeks, and you see what happens to your skin. And then you sit down and you eat 5 or 10 bananas at a time, and then you see what happens to your skin in the following days. That'll give you a bit more of an idea. To the best of my knowledge, there aren't medical diagnostic tests that you can take that can tell you, like, you're allergic to bananas and peaches and blackberries. Or I guess, yeah, it's not an allergy, it's a sensitivity. My thoughts on so-called cheat days. I kind of feel like cheat days are just... It's like you must be restricting yourself for a certain amount of the time in order to have a cheat day. So, if what you're restricting yourself to is, whole plant foods, and you're eating sufficiently, I don't feel the need to have cheat days on that kind of a diet because I feel so good and I feel satiated and really well taken care of from that diet. I think a lot of people who do caloric restriction or purposeful restriction of, say, carbohydrates really feel like they need a cheat day. But, and I don't think that those practices are a good idea at all. If you are on a whole plant food diet and you're taking really good care of yourself and you're eating sufficient calories, and then once a week you want to eat chocolate cake, part of me says, go for it and really enjoy that chocolate cake. Don't have guilt about it. Just sit down and really enjoy it. If you're packing in 10,000 calories of chocolate cake, that's not going to do anyone any favors. If you're emotionally eating the chocolate cake to try to moderate your anxiety and your feelings, that's not going to do you any favors either. But if you're sitting down and enjoying a bit of chocolate cake, cool, yeah, that's fine. Have a little cheat day. Sorry, I got a text. Anyway, trying to figure out which one of my friends has a mansion. I think I figured it out, though. It's fine. However, I do believe that if you're sitting down and having chocolate cake once a week, and you're eating something that's really refined and hyper palatable, you're kind of just perpetuating the addictive properties that those foods have on your body and that effect. And so if every week you give yourself refined sugar and refined fat and refined flour, and then every week you get that dopamine stimulation, and every week your body remembers that this is just so amazing, then it's going to be harder for you to, self-modulate throughout the rest of the week. It's different for different people. Some people have underlying patterns of anxiety or codependency that make them more prone to addiction. Some people are totally fine with sitting down and eating chocolate cake once a week, and then they never think about chocolate cake otherwise. You just have to figure out what works for you. For me, in my earlier days, when I was closer to having my eating disorder, it was both important for me to give myself permission to eat foods that I didn't think were ideal, but it was also important for me to avoid the trigger foods and the foods that would send me into a frenzy of trying to manage my anxiety in ways that weren't helpful for me. Now I do, I feel like I can sit down and have a bite or two of chocolate cake and be like, yeah, that's good, but I don't need it, and I don't particularly want it, and I don't particularly want how my body is going to feel after I eat this. I hope that makes sense. My thoughts on Candida. I think Candida is scapegoated for a lot of problems. I think some people definitely do have issues with Candida. Those are usually AIDS patients or elderly people who have serious immune issues. I don't think it's super common for people to be walking around and have a raging Candida infection inside their bodies that they don't know about. I think it's really natural for people to be eating inappropriate diets, or for their naturopath to have put them on a really high-fat diet and be experiencing a lot of brain fog and a lot of other symptoms that could be associated with Candida, like breakouts or lethargy or bloating. And then, their naturopath says, oh, you have Candida, you gotta go on this really, really strict diet, and if you stray at all, it's just gonna come back and it's gonna be raging. Here, take all these supplements, your total for today comes to $350, and then you come back and you're like, gosh, I'm not getting better, and they're like, oh, it's probably because you ate an apple last week. You really gotta be better about that diet. And then it just turns into a nightmare. I know that Candida can bloom when you have really high blood sugar, when your body isn't processing sugar in an efficient way, and the primary cause of that is too much fat being in the bloodstream. So, when I first switched over from doing the high-fat naturopath recommended, what everybody tells you to do at the health food store, high-fat diet, to a more carbohydrate-based diet, I saw a big difference in the ability of my body to clear blood sugar out of my blood really quickly. And so the issues that I was having that were blamed on Candida, like the brain fog, the bloating, the lethargy, the chronic acne, disappeared really quickly. And maybe it is that I was having, a Candida bloom every time I ate because the blood sugar couldn't get out of my blood. Or it was just because I was eating a high-fat diet and my lymphatic system was really stagnated and I wasn't eating enough fiber to keep my digestion going. So, those are my thoughts on Candida. What about fruit after cooked foods? I think it depends on how much you ate. Like, if your stomach is super full and then you pile fruit on top of that, that's going to be a problem. If you ate cooked food like a plain sweet potato and then you ate fruit, I don't think that's a problem. If you ate a giant helping of freaking lasagna with marinara sauce that has oil in it and then you eat a bunch of fruit, I think you're going to run into digestive issues with that. It just depends. Joe, I can't put my hair down because I oiled my scalp and my hair is super oily right now. So if I put it down, it's just going to stick to my head and look really gross. Kath says, is drinking coffee okay? It has such a bad rep on most vegan channels, but if it's used not as a substitute for food but merely for its taste, is it okay? I like coffee and I don't really want to give it up. Okay, so coffee does have some problems. It's high in caffeine. That's probably its primary problem, and caffeine can mess with how, the fluid balance in your body. It can mess with adrenal issues if you're trying to recover from those. So the people that I think would be better off avoiding coffee would be people who are trying to recover from adrenal fatigue, or people who have a lot of blood sugar issues, because coffee can spike cortisol and then make you go crazy with your blood sugar. It also has the tendency to bind with minerals and prevent their absorption, which if you're drinking it before you have breakfast, it's not a big deal. But it also, coffee, I can't remember if it's something in coffee or specifically the caffeine. I think it's something specifically in coffee, not necessarily the caffeine. It prevents the conversion of omega-3 fatty acids, as far as I know, and then it inhibits issues with B12 for sure. I want to say vitamin D, but I'm not sure if that's correct. Yeah, I don't think the vitamin D thing is correct. But it can have some issues. Is this a problem if you get up and you make some organic French pressed coffee and you sip it and really love that coffee and appreciate it for its taste and what it brings to your life and the feeling that it gives you? I don't think so. If you want to enjoy a cup of coffee every day, that's fine. If you are drinking a gallon and a half of Folgers every day, I think you got problems. Does that help? I hope that helps, Kath. Okay. What's my favorite salad dressing? I have a couple of favorite salad dressings. One of them is I know you probably can't get papaya, but I like to mix papaya with tomatoes, cilantro, lime juice, and avocado. Smush that up in the bottom of your bowl, and then put your greens on top, and then use your hands and get in there and you massage that around. It's freaking phenomenal. My other favorite salad dressing is Bragg's liquid aminos, a little bit of coconut sugar. So like maybe 1 tablespoon of Bragg's, 1 tablespoon of coconut sugar with avocado and lime juice. And you kind of mix that together. And then I like to mix in the tomatoes and stuff at that point too, just because then the tomatoes carry the flavor really nicely, but you don't need to mix the tomatoes. And then you add that. Did I say avocado? I needed to say avocado if I didn't. I think I did. You mix all that onto your greens. And the avocado is what like makes the dressing stick to the greens so that you have dressing that is incorporated all throughout your salad instead of just puddled at the bottom, right? If you don't have avocado, because God bless us, I know that there are some of us who end up without ripe avocados. And if you don't have that, sometimes I've substituted other creamy foods. I've tried doing it with a sweet potato to get stuff to stick to the grains. One that's really good is pumpkin. Steamed pumpkin, oh my god, it makes the best salad dressing. I like to mix the steamed pumpkin with, again, like a tablespoon of Bragg's and a tablespoon of coconut oil, and then a little bit of nutritional yeast or something, and make a salad dressing out of that. It's kind of weird, it's different, but it's really good. Okay. What about cycling my greens, or your greens? Alexa, can you be a little more specific about the green cycling? Okay. And do you please have any advice for suffering from PMS? Yeah, PMS is a bitch. I think you asked a few minutes ago if you should be eating soy. I think that eating whole sources of soy, so like tofu is whole enough as far as I'm concerned, but like tofu, tempeh, whole soybeans, that's totally fine. The issue with soy is that they contain phytoestrogens, as do most foods, most plant foods, and it's fine. Consuming phytoestrogens provides, they're not real estrogens, but those phytoestrogens can occupy human estrogen receptors, and then that prevents your own estrogen from occupying that receptor. That might sound like a problem. I don't know of any cases in which it has been a problem. What it does is it prevents the stimulation of that estrogen receptor, which is really great for decreasing the effect that estrogen has on aggravating PMS, on promoting estrogen-sensitive cancers. So eating high phytoestrogen foods is a great way of lowering your cancer risk for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and other estrogen-sensitive cancers. Another great thing for PMS, you can try some herbal remedies. I know that when you're in the early days of making dietary changes, you just don't want to live through the symptoms anymore. So some herbs that I know to be good for PMS are like chaste tree berry. You don't want to take that one forever. It can have side effects, but you can take chaste tree berry for a little bit of time. I know, shucks, I've forgotten the other ones. It's just, you can find these herbs with a quick Google search. You just want to be wise about how long you take them and how much you're taking. So if you can consult with someone like a trusted herbalist, I am not a trusted herbalist. So if you're going to be incorporating more herbal inputs into your lifestyle, you should consult with someone who knows better. That doesn't mean someone at a health food store. It means someone who's like a real herbalist. Where'd that book go? Up there. I have this book, and I feel like it's a good resource. It'll tell you how long you should be taking these herbs for, if they could possibly interact with other herbs and cause problems. that kind of stuff. You can learn a lot from this book, and I do believe that they have an entire PMS thing, which I'm not going to spend too much time looking through that for it. But herbs can help, and then making sure that you're eating like a relatively low-fat diet. So 10 to 15% of your calories from fat is a good amount to help get the hormone levels in your blood down, and then make sure that you're eating plenty of fiber so that the fiber can bind to the hormones that your liver is trying to get rid of in your digestive tract so that they're not reabsorbed. I know I've talked about this quite a bit in my videos about hormonal health and hormonal balance that were, I believe, either part of the weight loss series or they were early last year as part of that series. I believe if you search for like lilykoihawaii hormones, it'll pop up. Papayas taste like feet to me. I bet they do. Papayas taste kind of like, some papayas taste like vomit to me. The papayas that we have here in Hawaii, they're genetically modified. They were genetically modified because a ring spot disease came to the islands in the 1980s and threatened to decimate the papaya industry. So they were one of the first GMO crops that were ever done and remedied the ring spot disease issue, and then they came out tasting super duper sweet with no vomit taste. I know that the papayas, say from Thailand or Mexico, the really long ones that are like huge and long and fat, those guys taste kind of like vomit as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Jen says, my boyfriend is pretty overweight but is interested in eating a plant-based vegan diet. Any ideas where to start? I'm so far in that my food would be too bland for him, but I want him to succeed. Yeah, absolutely. If someone's in a situation where it's like, they need to make these changes for health reasons, and the change that's going to be made is going to be like a really significant one, I would say like season up your foods so that it does taste palatable to him. Even Levi now, he eats much saltier foods, much richer foods than I do, and he seems to be fine with that. I'm mostly just happy that, he's eating mostly whole plant foods, and he's taking good care of himself other than that. I'm not going to try to take his salt from him, okay? So let your boyfriend eat food that tastes really good for him. I don't know how he feels about, like vegetables and fiber and all those kinds of things, but it might work if you watch my video on transitioning kids to a vegan diet, because I found that the tips for kids work just as well as for boyfriends, and usually parents, and usually dogs. You just gotta make it seem appealing and taste good. You can start with baby steps. If someone is really standoffish about taking the plunge into a totally whole food plant-based diet, start with baby steps, replacing white rice with brown rice, or trying to get them onto more whole foods, or eating, like more potatoes, sweet potatoes, more greens and vegetables that taste good. And trying to squeeze that, focus on adding those to the diet instead of subtracting foods. Because when you subtract foods, people get, I'm gonna miss that. Oh. The goal is you want to edge out those foods by adding in so much good food that they just either can't fit the bad stuff in, or they don't feel like they want it anymore. I know a lot of reason why people hesitate to get rid of foods is that they use them as kind of a crutch, an emotional crutch or a physical crutch, where, you get to 3 p.m. every day and you feel like you're gonna die, so you eat a candy bar. And that's because your blood sugar's all messed up from all the food that you ate earlier in the day. So, if you can add in more healthy foods and get to the point where they don't feel like they're crashing every day at 3 o'clock, they're gonna be a lot more comfortable not eating that candy bar. Hope that makes sense. Hey, Ashley! I got to meet Ashley at the beach one day. It's very cool. Thank you for tuning in. Do you think I should be concerned with eating too much oatmeal since it has a higher fat content? I've noticed since eating more oatmeal, it may just be eating more cooked foods, but I'm breaking out. Yeah, it can be. Oatmeal is surprisingly high in fat. Um, Again, like, some people do really well eating tons of oatmeal and they don't have any problems. Some people are more sensitive to that. Like, I'm more sensitive to the oatmeal. Levi can eat tons of it and he's totally fine. So if you feel like you're getting more breakouts, and if the primary change is that you've been eating more cooked foods like oatmeal, that could definitely be contributing. It could also be that you maybe have a sensitivity to one of those grains or one of those foods that you're eating. Again, it can, as we were talking about earlier, like, it can be kind of hard to tell. Elimination diet can help. But that said, oatmeal is also a really, really healthy food. So I don't know, maybe you can do like oatmeal, half oatmeal and half sweet potatoes, or oatmeal and frozen fruit or something. And it's like, because I know, well, we're coming out of winter now, but, well, in this hemisphere, if you're going into winter right now, it can be nice to cook that frozen fruit, at least warm it up, But it is like, it's pretty high in fat, and a lot of cooked foods can be higher in fat than we're used to on a mostly fruit-based diet. So it pays to be aware of that. Tips for non-diabetic hypoglycemia. Veggie V asks, I'm so tired of eating all the time, plus I'm gaining weight. Yeah, I feel you there. I had really, really bad hypoglycemia before I made this switch to a vegan diet. Getting my fat level really, really, really low was really important. I'm talking like 5% of my calories from fat. If I ate, like, if I would have half an avocado for dinner, the next day I would just be everywhere with my blood sugar. It was so terrible. It was miserable. So getting my fat really, really low for a period of time. I think it was like 6 months that I had to do that. And if I strayed, I felt it automatically. After that 6 or so months, I would say, it was between 3 to 6 months, it's like my body seemed to heal up to the point where I could have avocado for dinner and I was fine the next day. And I've gotten to the point now, okay, it says I have a bad connection. I'm not sure what that's about. Can you guys still see me? Okay. I think you can still see me. But yeah, getting really low fat was good. Helped. Okay, you can see me. And now I'm to the point where it's like, I can eat some corn chips or something, and that's not going to kill me. I'm not going to have any crazy blood sugar swings. But in the early days, it was really important for me to stay super low fat. I also seem to notice that, like, eating salt somehow contributed to it. I'm not sure how that would have happened. Caffeine was also a really, really big trigger for me to have blood sugar issues when I first started. Now, like, I can have some green tea a few times a week and I'm totally fine, but in the beginning I was very, very sensitive. Okay, thank you guys for the feedback. Okay, Lily, if someone has a past with restriction and yo-yoing, is going raw or whole food better than just being high carb, low fat? I think if someone has a past of restriction and yo-yoing, I think adding even more restriction to your life, say by eating only raw foods, I think you're going to perpetuate the eating disorder mentality. I say this from experience. Just being high carb, low fat, or just eating a whole plant food diet, like, if you don't have Candida issues, if you don't have hypoglycemia, I don't see any reason for someone purposefully really restricting their fat levels. If you're eating 50% of your calories from fat, you should think about that, because it can cause issues, and if you're eating that much fat, you're you're probably eating refined oils. If you're on a whole plant food diet, you usually come to between like 10 to 15% of your calories from fat, and that's great. Since you're possibly coming from a past of restriction and yo-yoing, I think it's really valuable to learn how to let yourself eat without guilt, without shame, without the frantic anxiety and the worry that can come from eating a bad food that you're not supposed to have, which happens on a raw food diet, you know? If you're on all raw food and then you want to eat cooked food, it can cause a lot of stress, especially from someone coming from previously restricted eating. Like I have said in my raw food videos and videos after that, I don't think there are any benefits from eating a 100% raw food diet as opposed to a whole plant food diet. In fact, I think it can be damaging for your health, right? Okay. Oh dear Lord. Ramadan, yes, I have heard of Ramadan. Religious fasting, if I'm correct, yeah? You can't eat nor drink from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. Oh, bless you. Okay, yeah, that's going to be a struggle. You're allowed to eat in the night, though? That's... I mean, I don't want you to not sleep, and I hope that you're not continuing to, like, work or do your other tasks while you're fasting, because, you know, I hope that the specification is that you're focusing on spiritual or whatever other stuff during the day, and you're not still putting your body through its usual labors. I guess it just depends on the overall health and constitution of your body. I know if I had to do that, I would be fucking wrecked because I can't fast. Sorry for swearing. I can't fast effectively. But I would, if you're allowed to, like, try to get your fluids in when you're allowed to. I don't know if you're allowed to sleep during the day when you're fasting. I'd try to get more sleep then. But try to get your fluids and at least some food in at night. And allow yourself that. I would say it might be wise to not eat like one ginormous meal at 10 p.m. at night, because that'll probably hit your stomach like a brick. Maybe try to like space it out over a few smaller meals. I hope that's helpful. Again, like I don't know exactly what's allowed. October 67, I love you, Lily. You are my inspiration for going raw. I appreciate that you love me. I'm not sure why I inspired you to go raw. But I hope you're taking really good care of yourself. Listening to your body. Okay. Okay, yeah, you can eat. I say you can eat during the night and before 4 a.m. Well, I work and I have my finals and it's pretty busy. Okay, well... Whew. Just do your best, you know? Do your best and nourish yourself when you're able. That's what I say about that. Okay. Life rules on consumerism. Vegan adventure, that is a good question. Okay, we're, this is going to be, I might do one question after this, but this is going to be my second to last question. Consumerism, it's hard to get around. It's hard to break the habit of, it's in our minds of thinking that we constantly need things that are outside of ourselves to be happy. I've had times in my life where I lived a very minimalist lifestyle. This was like 10 years ago before minimalism was even popular or a thing. It's like I lived out of my backpack for 3 or 4 years, and I got a really good idea of how much I actually need. That said, it was a big priority for me to then settle down and have a home and have a place where I can have a bookshelf. I think it's really handy that you can like get books, you know, on your phone or your iPad now, which helps to cut down on the amount of stuff that you have, but that's still consuming. I don't think consumerism is going to go away. That said, I also don't know that it's going to be a real solution to try to do, you know, conscious consumerism, where it's like, oh, I bought these $100 leggings that are made of recycled plastic bottles, and then try to act like that's somehow totally victimless, even though it's still having a really big impact on the planet. And you know, my hope is those $100 leggings would not be made by slave labor in Cambodia. But I think this is another issue where I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know. Consumerism, it creates an economy. What I would like to see is more people who want to be farmers, and are okay with not buying into this like horrible consumerist lifestyle, who are capable of seeing the bigger picture, who refuse to shop at places like H&M. Because the big problems that I believe should be focused on are H&M and all those other fast fashion and all of those other people that are now, all the other corporations that are rising up based on this like really fast disposable consumerism. It's not going to work. And I think it's really important to offer people an alternative that is appealing. One of those, I don't know if my lifestyle is appealing to other people, but it's like, I buy things when I need them. And I'm going to be uploading a video later today or early tomorrow that is about conscious purchases and some of the conscious purchases that I make and all that kind of stuff. So I think we should self-reflect on why we're buying things. Just like we should self-reflect on, you know, why we're eating food. It's like, am I eating food to nourish myself and to keep myself going, or am I eating it to avoid anxiety, or to placate myself in some way, or to avoid situations? I think the same questions can be asked of consumerism. Why am I consuming? Is it because I honestly need this to survive, or, you know, like this shirt, I bought it because I needed a t-shirt and it has a cool message on it and I tried to buy it from a great company. You just try to do what you can do and ask the question, am I buying this because I'm anxious? I feel it too sometimes. I'm like, oh, I feel kind of anxious. Maybe I'll stop by Target, you know. Ooh, I could buy this. And then I get excited and I get that rush. I usually catch myself. I'm like, bitch, you can't afford that. Anyway. Thank you. Thank you for your lovely, lovely comments. Okay. Let's find one more question. One more good question. I see a question about rheumatoid arthritis. Beyond my recommendations, there's, and I assume like you've gone gluten-free and stuff. I'm not sure about the calcium. I would advise that since you have like a serious autoimmune illness, I would consult with someone like Dr. Pam Popper, who runs the Wellness Forum. She does phone and email consultations, and she's a wealth of information. I know she works with tons of people who have had autoimmune issues. Okay? Okay, last question. Aaron Ross. Is it normal that I've been eating a whole plant food diet for 4 months and I've seen no fat loss? I keep telling myself that it's normal and it'll take time, but I'm freaking out. I need reassurance. Okay, yes. I found that most people who find themselves in this situation freak out, which is perfectly normal, I suppose. You know, you make a big change, you expect some frickin' results, right? Right? Yeah. It is normal. It depends on the past that you're coming from. It depends on the health of your endocrine system. It also depends on exercise habits. And I say that knowing that it can be either side. Some people over-exercise, and that hurts their endocrine health, and so they stall out on weight loss. Some people aren't exercising at all, and that is what is actually stalling their weight loss. I can't tell you exactly what's going on for you, because I don't have enough information, but it is pretty normal to not experience rapid weight loss, or specifically fat loss. It depends so much on your body and what's going on hormonally and the health of your organ systems and your lymphatic system and all that kind of stuff. Be as consistent as you can. I know it's frustrating. I know I made a video called like, how long does it take for me to lose weight? It's on the weight loss series, and I talk about 2 people who I've been in communication with for, gosh, like 2 years now. You know, one of them changed their diet, started losing weight immediately, and they've lost so much weight and they look great, and it was immediate. The other person contacted me and was like, I've been doing this for a year and I'm not seeing any results, and I'm incredibly frustrated. I'm doing everything right. I feel great, so I'm going to keep doing it, but like I'm doing everything right and nothing's happening. Or it would be something like, you know, half a pound weight loss every month that's like barely even perceivable. And I just said, you know, you're doing everything right, just stay consistent with it. A few months later, again, no weight loss. A couple months later, no weight loss. And then literally all of a sudden she got to a point where she started losing weight. And it was just a matter of her body healing and getting healthy, and she had come from a past of restriction and some substance use, and it just took her body a while to get to a point where it was able to be hormonally effective at weight loss. So try to be consistent. Okay, I am going to wrap this up now. I know that there are some trolls, and I want to address, like, I did a bunch of research on, like, how to moderate it and assign moderators and everything like that, and as far as I found, all of that applies to when you're doing this on a computer. I am using the YouTube Live app, and those options just are not adding up. Oh god, you guys got me. I'll answer one more question. Do you count calories or eat intuitively? I used to count calories to make sure I was getting enough calories. Now I trust my body enough to ask for what it needs, so I eat more intuitively. I did make a video on intuitive eating. I do believe it's also part of the weight loss series, and I highly recommend you watch that because I go through all of the intuitive eating principles and talk about my thoughts and feelings regarding those, and why I think intuitive eating is wonderful, and also some of the drawbacks of intuitive eating. Okay, we have a bad connection again, so I'm going to go ahead and go. What is that? Let's see love. Congratulations on your 1-year vegan anniversary. Okay, I will be back here next week for another live Q&A. It was wonderful to spend time with you all. Hopefully plenty of people from Europe were able to join in, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye.